So you'll be able to meet both Henry and Emmanuel on the 23rd, where we kick off with the seminar with the real estate team. Okay, so if I can please share my screen, I'll go ahead and get started. Just to give you just a sort of brief outline of what we'll be talking about on October 23rd. And really, this is what we're going to be talking about throughout our real estate tour here in the United States. I'm going to be talking about the home buying process in Ghana, focusing on that financing options, and then Emmanuel will talk about our escrow services. So once we have the screen up, I'll go ahead and get started. I'm just going to really try to wrap it up as briefly as possible. The content, so I'm going to touch on the budget, the mortgage calculator, how people can calculate their monthly payments, and why it's so important to find a real estate agents to work with or to partner with, particularly here in Ghana. The essence of doing due diligence, and then the financing options and things to be aware of. I think people are not empowered with information concerning the process here in Ghana, because the bottom line is it's not a regulated market as you find in other markets. So you want to make sure you're working with professionals and you're able to identify red flags and to make sure that you're doing your due diligence so you don't become a victim of fraud. And then also, I think that's it in a nutshell. And then we'll get into the escrow services as well. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask as I'm moving along. All right. So Henry, we can move to throughout the screen now.
Okay, can you also see my screen?
Quick question, so I don't have to come back to that if you don't mind. When not only is it not regulated in Ghana, but is that pretty much are there any regulated markets in West Africa or in any other parts of Africa that you know where there is pretty much the whole Sahara non-regulated?
I think Emmanuel can touch on that, but I do know. Go ahead, Emmanuel.
Yeah, so when it comes to West African markets, the people who actually deal with West Africa from the West, they deal with Ghana and Nigeria because we speak the English language. We are Anglophone countries. And these two markets I know are not the realtor market is not regulated. So when she says it's not regulated, it means that so for instance here, realtors do not get licenses. I mean, we have passed through now, which is supposed to be operationalized, but it's not being operationalized yet. But for the longest time, realtors have not been required to obtain licenses. So some group of realtors, trusted realtors, have come together and set up the Ghana Association of Real Estate Brokers, where they vet these real estate people, agents, and more or less put their name on their list. So if you want to deal with realtors in Ghana, it's highly recommended that you deal with an association first. You find out whether they are linked to an association before you engage them. So that is the aspect of the market that is not regulated, the real estate agency market. But when it comes to conveyancing and all the other aspects of real estate transactions, those are heavily regulated, and perhaps even more regulated than some other jurisdictions.
Thank you so much. My question has been answered thoroughly. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right, so Henry, we can move to the next slides, please. So one of the things I'll be talking about is looking at the budget, looking at your net expenses, and also the debt to income ratio. Typically, we want to make sure that we're looking at least 30%, particularly if those want to, the budget one, particularly if those individuals want to take out a mortgage here in Ghana. There's a mortgage calculator that just helps calculate your monthly mortgage payments. Okay. The next slide, Henry. Okay, the next one. All right, so we have the mortgage calculator. Okay, great. Now the next. So also going to be touching on why it's important, just as Emmanuel mentioned, that the real estate market is not regulated in Ghana. So it's very important to get a real estate agent. We are your buyer's advocate. We help you with negotiations. We're very familiar with the market. We have great market knowledge. We can give more information about prime areas, emerging. And we also have access to housing inventory that may not be public. I know in the States you have the MLS listing and other public platforms, but in Ghana it's very limited. So a lot of properties that are on the market may not necessarily have a public listing. So it's very important to have access to a real estate agent. Henry, you can move to the next slide, the why use an agent. Thank you. And then number 5, we have access to real estate stakeholders like mortgage lenders, just third-party individuals, home inspectors, property insurance agents, etc. And also we can help with relevant documentation, which is very important. I'm sure Emmanuel has a lot of stories. If clients are not using the necessary documentation to purchase the transaction, purchase the property, it may be null and void. So we make sure that we use the standard sales and purchase agreements. And he'll talk more about it in terms of the due diligence, making sure they have the site plan, the indenture, the unit allocations, and every document that is pertinent to their transaction. And we assist clients in the entire home buying process. Our scope of work starts from when we take the clients to the site visit or viewings. We hold their hands all the way to the end process where they actually receive their title certificates. Now, in terms of doing due diligence, we want to encourage buyers to do their due diligence even on Ewell's Realty. Next slide, please. Even on Ewell's Realty and Consultancy. There are a lot of real estate agents that don't operate from an office or don't have a registered business. We have been in business since 2014. We are a registered entity, and we are an entity that belongs to the association that Emmanuel touched on, which is Ghana Association of Real Estate Brokers. We have been members for a few years, 6, 7 years now, and we have been vetted by them. So in other words, they ensure that we do our fingerprinting. There are no criminal records. They make sure that we follow code of ethics, and we have accountability to the association. So we follow the rules and regulations, and we also don't charge commissions that are above the standard commissions that are regulated by this association. Some of the key things that people need to bear in mind in their due diligence is to, again, visit the office location and talking about some of the red flags, some of the things that we don't participate in, which, other entities do. In terms of clients making payments, we don't receive any cash payments. We don't take any cash payments in our office. We work hand in hand with our escrow service, Law Consult with Emmanuel, and all funds are channeled through the escrow account, and all funds are dispersed according to the sales and purchase agreement or the disbursement conditions. We have a track record, we have client references, and we have a lot of awards that we can also show that we've won several awards for being the most trusted real estate brokers in Ghana, and other awards as well. Why Ewell's Realty? We see clients as a priority, and we're very experienced in both the US and the Ghanaian market, and we value customer experience and customer service. We ensure that we respond within 12 hours. We have quick response times, and we also don't charge any upfront fees. You'll find that in this market, there are a lot of people who charge moving fees, consultancy fees, site fees, etc. We don't charge any site fees unless it is outside of Accra. So if we're, for some reason, taking a client beyond the prime areas, then that's different. But if we're right within the Accra area, we don't charge any site fees. We believe in just building relationships and building that rapport and focusing on with clients. Commissions are something that we don't take up front. We make sure that the transaction has closed fully, and then our escrow agent disperses that. You get the final settlement statement. Prior to that, you get the fee sheet, but you get the final settlement statement, and that is when funds are being dispersed. It's really very similar to the U.S. system, and we did that because those in the diaspora are familiar with that real estate system. So we wanted to make sure that we just pretty much implemented that here. We are members of GHP, as I mentioned, also of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce, Ghana Investment Promotion Council, Diaspora Africa Forum, and Diaspora Affairs Office President. So we are in partnership with all those entities as well. All right. I think I've spoken about those things. Let me move to the next slide. All right. Now, one of the key things that Emmanuel will be talking about in terms of the escrow services is do have what we call off-plan sales. These are clients who are purchasing a property that is not yet built. It's under construction or it's about to be built. I know that people may be hesitant about that because the property hasn't been built, and maybe they feel that paying for something that is not yet built could be an issue. And so that's why we have the escrow services in place to ensure that the funds are protected for the buyer and also for the seller, because you can run into situations where, because here we don't really do proof of funds. So you can run into situations where the buyer is supposed to make payments and they don't end up making payments, and the seller is in a situation where they're building and the funds are not coming in. So based on this escrow service, both the buyer and the buyer and the seller are protected. So these are some of the reasons why people would consider using eWealth Realty as a partner here in Ghana. All right, now financing options. We have various financing options, and I'm going to focus on the one for the development that we will be talking about, which is Shark Island. The first one is the outright payment, which typically attracts a 3% discount. But because of this promotional tour, there is a 10% discount for all outright payments. And that ends on November 9th, right? And there is a promotional discount code for that. The other option is mortgage option. Now, here in Ghana, you can actually get a mortgage from a local bank. There are various things that they look at. Number one is the down payment amount. It varies from bank to bank, but typically it's about 30% down payment. What the banks will be looking at are your 3 credit reports from Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. They'll be looking at your credit history, and they will be looking at your debt. So the debt to income ratio varies from bank to bank, but is typically from 30 to 50%. The loan term for a foreigner is 15 years maximum, and the loan term for a Ghanaian would be 20 years. The interest rates vary. The base rates are anywhere from 11 to 13%. There is an age limit. So for example, if you're 50 years old, the maximum loan term you can get is 10 years because the cutoff age is 60. So if you're 55, the maximum you can get is 5 years. Okay, so that is how mortgages work. And they'll be looking at the net income that I mentioned under the budget, the net income, not the gross. All right. So the third option is seller financing. So this particular seller will be looking at 30% down payment and will give up to 15 years. And the other financing option is to pay $2,000 a month until the completion of the total value of the property. Fourth financing option is the payment in 4 tranches, which is up to 1 year, so it's 25%. And the final option is a customized payment plan. Maybe somebody wants to do a 2-year, 1 year, 5-year, whatever option they would like to present to the seller will be open for discussion. All right, a few things to look out for. The lease terms. In the US, you have freehold. In Ghana, we do not have freehold. We have what we call leasehold. So as a foreigner, you can get up to 50 years. And as a Ghanaian, you can get up to 99 years. The question is, what happens after the expiration of 50 years? It is renewed. There is a clause in the indenture, I'm sure Emmanuel will touch more on that will talk about renewing it. So you don't lose your home after 50 years. It will still be passed on to your generation, but there is a renewal clause there as well. Properties here do have the builder's warranty. There is a builder's refund policy as well, in case you want to pull out at any given time after purchasing the property. And they are homeowners association rules. We call them service charges here. And then taxes, a question I get asked a lot. What are the taxes? So for capital gains, it's 15%. The rent income tax is 8% for residential, non-residential, and investment properties, 15%. Property rate is just simply the property taxes. That varies anywhere from 0.5 to 3% a year. All right. And then the home buying process. So it just starts off with the research and budgeting, and then engaging a real estate agency like eWells, and then going on the property viewings. And then after you've selected a property, then our escrow services would do the due diligence. We have home inspectors that will make sure that the building fits the standard building code here. And then at that point, you can submit an offer, pay the deposit, sign the sales and purchase agreement, which the escrow service does all that. And then the handing over of the keys, the transfer of the deed at that point. And then the escrow services will continue with the next phase of registration of the deed at Lands Commission. And then finally, receiving your title certificate. So that is it in a nutshell.
HOA. Hanna, we had a question here.
Sure.
Are the homes in an HOA, for example?
Are they in an HOA?
Yes. Yeah. You know, like we have community management here that dictates what you can and can't do, you know, things like that.
Yes, it depends. It varies from development to development. Okay. So this particular development does have HOAs, it does have property management, and it does have the service charges. Yes.
Okay, got it. And when you say property management services, does that mean that, okay, for example, I've got a buddy that's buying a home over in Dominican Republic, right? Yes. And over there, it comes with a management service where they basically will run his home as an Airbnb for him and manage that property where he has to do nothing but wait for his money to come every month. Do you mean that kind of management service there as well?
Exactly. So that is available Shark Island.
The presentation.
Henry, you can take the slide off, please. Thank you. So the Shark Island, they do offer that. Thank you. They do offer that service. And also with the payment plan that I mentioned, that is the $2,000 a month. With the payment plan, after the property is completed, they can rent it out for you. and they do a 50-50 split where 50% of the income comes to you and the other 50% goes to offset the monthly payment. So that's another as well. So the whole point of Shark Island, it's actually an individual who lived in the States. He was in the military. He's relocated to Ghana, and he wanted to develop a community that could help with sustaining individuals, because you find people want to relocate, they come back, they run out of money, they end up going back. So he looked at it where people could come in, purchase a unit, and begin to get rental income that could sustain them in their new environment. So there's that type of flexibility.
Okay, love it.